I think the next 3 years are going to be really exciting for this space because I think what's going to happen is the monetary stuff's going to get worse. That's almost a certainty. Whether we get to the big print or not, I don't know. But the monetary conditions are going to get worse, and it going to 10 million or it going to kind of infinity in dollar terms because nobody wants a dollar anymore. But every time it takes out an old all-time high and everybody's in a profit position, it's like, oh my God, here we go again. And so when we take out 73 and we head towards, I'd say the peak of this next cycle might be 200, 250. There's just going to be a whole new group of converts who are going to go, oh shit, I was wrong. I got to get in on this. And of course, sadly, some of them will buy in at 250 right before it corrects down to 150.
Lawrence Lepard emphasizes that Bitcoin's volatility, while significant, has shown a gradual downward trend since its inception. This reduction in drawdowns reflects the increasing maturity of the asset and its broader distribution across market participants. However, Lepard acknowledges that extreme volatility could resurface during a systemic financial breakdown, akin to historical events like the Weimar Republic's hyperinflation. In such a scenario, Bitcoin could experience rapid price swings, potentially reaching astronomical heights like $500,000, only to correct sharply as governments introduce temporary measures to restore confidence. For long-term holders, Lepard underscores that these fluctuations are part of Bitcoin's journey to eventual mass adoption and astronomical valuations, possibly reaching $10 million or even higher in terms of a devalued dollar.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
I think in general, volatility is trending down from inception. I mean, if you go back and you look at the drawdowns, they're getting smaller. Not incredibly quickly, but they are getting smaller. So I think the volatility will decrease on a general basis over time because it just gets more widely distributed, so there are more buyers to buy the dip. I think it could be extremely volatile in a kind of a Weimar-like environment. If we really do break the monetary system and things start to go crazy, it could be all over the map. And it'll literally be just kind of hang on to your hats because, it's going, if the dollar really starts to fail and Bitcoin goes to 500,000 and then the government announces some program, well, no, we're going to cut expenses, we're going to do, and everyone's like, oh shit, and they believe them. Bitcoin could go from 500,000 back down to 200,000, right? And that's a hell of a lot of volatility. But then everyone, at the 200,000, it becomes clear that what the government said really isn't true and they can't do it. And so it goes from 200,000 to 800,000. You follow what I'm saying? In other words, you can get these really wide swings on the way to it going to 10 million or it going to kind of infinity in dollar terms because nobody wants a dollar anymore. So that's kind of what I'm describing. I mean, actually, the process of hyper-Bitcoinization when the currency failed, and in the case of Weimar, it kind of went up a lot in 19 and 20 and 21. And it was about a 1.5 year event where the currency completely failed, totally and completely failed. And there was a lot of volatility in that time frame. That's why I think the next 3 years are going to be really exciting for this space because I think what's going to happen is the monetary stuff's going to get worse. That's almost a certainty. Whether we get to the big print or not, I don't know. But the monetary conditions are going to get worse, and Bitcoin's going to break out from the 73. And every time it hits a high and goes down, and when it went from 73 to 25, Bitcoin's dead. It's never going to work. All the skeptics, etc. But every time it takes out an old all-time high and everybody's in a profit position, it's like, oh my God, here we go again. And so when we take out 73 and we head towards, I'd say the peak of this next cycle might be 200, 250. There's just going to be a whole new group of converts who are going to go, oh shit, I was wrong. I got to get in on this. And of course, sadly, some of them will buy in at 250 right before it corrects down to 150. That's what will happen. The way it is right now, it's kind of surprising to me because it should be higher. It should, it's obvious to me that it should be higher, but But I suspect that, there's still a big piece of the world that thinks the stock market is the place to have your money. And that's the next piece of money that we need to grab. I mean, the gold guys aren't going to come buy Bitcoin, although some have. But the real big pool, the two big pools of capital in the world are people who are invested in bonds. And I think they're slowly waking up to the fact that inflation is persistent. But also people who are invested in stocks, because frankly, stocks have been a pretty good hedge against inflation. I mean, if you've been in the right stocks, they've gone up nicely, over time, and they protected you, and buying the dip always made sense. I think that's going to change. I think that's subtly changing because I think inflationary conditions mean that stocks and companies have earnings pressure. They get rising costs, and they can't always pass it on in higher prices. So I guess my view is, that the stock market is going to start coming after Bitcoin, and that's going to fuel the next leg higher. It's as you and I both know, there's kind of a ceiling right at the old all-time high around 73. We're right up against it. And the way these things, technically, the way financial markets tend to work is when you break through an old all-time high, you score it up to a much higher all-time high. So I think clearing 73, I think we'll be at 90 very quickly. So that's my guess. But we're not quite through 73 yet, and it could take a little bit longer. Also, we need the government to start to initiate that big print. And give us more hints that that's coming. And we're kind of seeing it. Yesterday Yellen talked about buying some more paper, and there are indications that it's going to happen. But they're subtle, and so not everyone's picked up on it yet.
Lepard also touches on the political implications of Bitcoin adoption. He argues that Bitcoin will continue to thrive regardless of political leadership, although a pro-Bitcoin administration could significantly accelerate its integration into the financial system. For instance, recognizing Bitcoin, gold, and silver as legal tender and removing capital gains taxes on these assets would mark a monumental shift, incentivizing broader adoption. This move, already proposed by some politicians, could position the United States as a global leader in the Bitcoin economy. While the path may face resistance, Lepard remains optimistic that Bitcoin's inherent qualities will prevail over time, reshaping monetary policy and democratizing wealth.
But there are two kind of use cases surrounding Bitcoin, right? There's the store of value use case, which we all get and understand, and really that's, I think, why most people are in it today. And then there's the medium of exchange use case, which, excuse me, Jeff Booth points out he thinks that's the most important one. And I share his view in that we've really got to get people using it. It has to become more of a medium of exchange. And, and the reason for that is that will embed it deeper into society, and it'll make it harder for, the governments to 6102 it. The medium of exchange case is dependent, in my view, right now on the development of Lightning and, non-custody solutions like Fediment, both of which are being developed and growing and doing quite well and advancing, but neither of which are, huge and widespread. They're really early days. They're like the 93 internet. And so we've got to improve. Right now, if you want to send a small transaction over Lightning, no problem. Works great, cheap, all squared away. You want to send a bigger number over Lightning, well, there's not as much liquidity there. There aren't enough channels to necessarily do it. It's getting better, but it's an issue. And so to me, these kind of medium of exchange second layer apps and development are the key to much more widespread adoption as quote unquote money. Right now, in my view, and I know Seyr doesn't like when I say this, but I strongly believe right now Bitcoin is really just digital gold. It's better than gold, obviously, because it's got a fixed supply. But the supply of gold on the planet will double in the next 50 years as we mine more of it. The medium of exchange case is, I think, what drives us to that next level, and I think that's another 5 to 10 years, But I think more and more. I'm sure you've traveled and spent and used Bitcoin for things. I have. I've been to places that accept Bitcoin. I use it every time I can. So it's coming, but it's that we're in the dial-up phase over there. It's really early days. The other thing I'm very excited about is that I think Bitcoin will defund government and then therefore make it much harder to conduct war. I don't think there's any set of human beings that would vote to pay the taxes necessary to go kill other human beings. And so the governments have figured this out, and that's the way they pay for these wars is they just have inflation. And if you take inflation away, and you can't have inflation because the monetary system cannot be inflated full stop, well, how the hell are they going to tax us to have the war? Well, then how the hell are they going to have the war? And so, that's to me the greatest crime of the fiat currency era that we live in is the way that it's allowed these big corrupt governments to, go kill people. And and that's just incredibly evil and sad. So those two things are, to me, the most exciting parts of Bitcoin. The side benefit is that we're all going to get rich, and that's good too. But that's a side effect, not the main effect. Look, I mean, if you really think longer term, I mean, there's an argument that, what are nation states for? I mean, there was, they arose to defend property and they arose to defend wealth and they arose to create privilege for the people at the top of them. And one could argue that, obviously much flatter systems, I think, would be, much better. There's substantial argument for that. And I think the decentralization of governments, that I'm all for that. I mean, I think, I'm not a complete anarchist. I mean, I think I think most civilized human beings would agree that having some government structure makes sense from a protecting life and liberty and property. I like having police officers. I like having courts. I like thinking that criminals will be punished. And I'm certainly willing to pay my fair share of the taxes to have those things occur. But beyond that, I kind of look at government and I go, okay, everything else you're doing, no, not really interested in that. let's just stick to the life, liberty, and safety and rule of law. That's all, and if somebody said you got to pay 20% of your income to make sure you have those things, I'd say, done. I'm totally good with it. But I think we could do it for a lot less than 20% of our incomes even. I think Bitcoin's going to win no matter what happens in this election. I mean, I think let's say she wins, and let's say Warren continues with her anti-crypto nonsense, and let's say they try and do a lot of negative things. The pushback is going to be enormous, and it's one of those things where no matter what they do, I think Bitcoin wins. Having said that, though, I think that it'd be much better, and it will be an easier path if we have an administration that's friendly to Bitcoin and is building a strategic reserve. And that, one of the biggest things I think could happen and be a huge positive, and Trump actually just mentioned it the other day to somebody, would be for Bitcoin to be, and this in my book, I write about this as well. Bitcoin, gold, and silver should all be legal tender. And what that means is that holding them and then selling them should not represent a capital gain or a capital transaction. In other words, they're all money. They're all, the dollar is a form of money, Bitcoin's a form of money, gold's money, silver's money. They're all money. And so you don't, when you trade a dollar, a dollar's a dollar, but you don't, because it's the numeraire. But the point is, money shouldn't lead to the appreciation of one money in terms of another money should not lead to a capital transaction, a capital gains event. And I heard Trump the other day say something along the lines, if he was thinking about, he agreed with somebody who said you should eliminate the tax on capital gains in Bitcoin in the United States. That would be a big deal. And I'm not sure he'll be able to get it done, but if he did, that would be a big deal. So yes, it's certainly more positive for Bitcoin in one direction versus the other.
Lepard describes hyper-Bitcoinization as the tipping point where Bitcoin becomes the dominant global currency. Drawing parallels to the collapse of fiat systems like the Weimar Republic, he predicts that the next 3 years could be pivotal as monetary conditions deteriorate further. As inflationary pressures mount, Bitcoin's appeal as a store of value will intensify. Lepard envisions a future where Bitcoin's adoption extends beyond wealth preservation to everyday transactions, solidifying its role as the backbone of a decentralized financial ecosystem.
Please like and subscribe my channel.